9 members of the European Parliament travelled to China this week in a bid to thaw years of frozen relations between the EU institution and Beijing. But with a record trade imbalance and China accused of being an enabler of Russia's aggression in Ukraine, the visit raises as many questions as it hopes to answer. Our EU correspondent Angela Skujin spoke to European Parliament Vice President Javi López, who was part of that trip, and began by asking him, why now?
What we want is relaunch our relations and defend the European interests, especially address our difference and explode and use our areas of cooperation. Obviously, multilateralism, the defense of the rules-based order, international law, the United Nations chapter, fight against climate change, and ensure that we have economic governance that it's balanced, that it's stable, that it's full of certainty. It's in our mutual interest. But at the same time, we want to address our differences, especially the war in Ukraine, and how China could play a stronger role to find a solution and a peace after the brutal aggression, and obviously tackling trade and trade imbalance. That is an important concern for the European public opinion, for the European economy, trying to ensure that we have full access to the Chinese.
And maybe if we look at Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine and China's support for that, as well as that eye-watering trade deficit in China's favour, how did the MEPs on this trip communicate regarding these points, and was the message received? How did the Chinese react?
We're extremely consistent during all our meetings, repeating these two messages: the need of a full implication of China on the resolution of a just peace for Ukraine, and especially underlining how the brutal invasion, illegal invasion, unjustified invasion of the Russian Federation to Ukraine is attacking all the European architecture of security. And at the same time, we also are backing, supporting, pushing in the ongoing negotiations that the European Commission has with China, with Commissioner Šefčovič, related to trade. A few weeks ago, they had an important meeting in Brussels with a joint press conference. This will continue this autumn, especially on October.
And you mentioned that October deadline. This is the month allocated by the European Commissioner for Trade, Maroš Šefčovič, to establish some kind of conclusion when it comes to this trade deficit. And the inference here is that if China doesn't come to the table and if agreement isn't found, that the EU will act. You've been on the ground in China. How do you think that they will respond to these hardball tactics come October?
Well, they have their arguments on that about the application of the World Trade Organization rules. But we are insisting on our unsustainable reality for us, politically and economically, that it's this size, this volume of trade surplus of China, trade imbalance, that it's 1 billion per day. That it has to be addressed, and we should find solutions on this regard.
And is the solution triggering the trade bazooka?
Well, we have negotiations ongoing, and what we expect is results and deliver solutions through these negotiations, through dialogue and cooperation.